Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Friday Conversation, episode 150. 150 episodes. That's pretty cool. So thanks to all of you for joining me. We'll start with Jared. Jared, you want to give us a quick introduction?
I'm Jared. I run the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel. I'm also on the Speculative Speculation podcast and a whole bunch of other podcasts here on pagechewing.com.
And Jose.
Okay, I'm Jose. I run the Jose's Amazing Worlds of Fantasy YouTube channel and also host the Fantasy Talks Live podcast and can also be found on the pagechewing.com forums.
And Joshua.
I'm just a member of the Page Chewing forums. Here to hang out.
Nice.
That's the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an excuse to hang out and to talk conspiracy theories. So we didn't really have anything pre-planned, but it sounds like we have a couple of topics. Jose, do you want to start us off with the latest conspiracy theory for George R.R. Martin?
This is, again, so obviously a lot has been said over the years about Martin and what's taking him so long to finish the books, and some people, deluded, seem to think that he's secretly written them both and that they're going to be coming out at some point soon. Anyway, so recently Martin posted in his blog, that he's a bit upset that people don't seem to love as much all his other projects as they do Game of Thrones. Whereas he says, he loves all his projects, and of course he loves his characters and his work on A Song of Ice and Fire, but he also has these other projects going on. But anyway, and then of late, I noticed the algorithm suggesting me a lot of videos about, why can't Martin finish the books? And people go into all these sort of psychological, ideas about him writing himself in a corner, or something to do with the character arcs and subversion of expectations and all that sort of stuff. So the latest thing I heard, and I buy it, is that when they were filming the show, Weiss and Benioff kind of forced / demanded to know the ending of the series, because obviously the show was going to finish before the books. So I understand, and I buy that Martin had to provide them at least with a rough guide of what the ending of the books was going to be. So I can believe that. Now, the conspiracy comes from because people didn't really like or hated the ending of the show, that has made Martin have to change the books completely, because he's afraid of the backlash he's going to get if he carries on with that ending of the series. I would like to believe that that's not the case, because I think the fault of the ending lies with the execution of the series, not with what the ideas of the ending are. And also, I would like to think that Martin will have some kind of integrity to tell the story that he wanted to tell, rather than tell the story that people want him to tell, if you know what I mean. And apparently, someone claims, and again, I don't know, I'll probably give this very little credence, that Winds of Winter was ready for publication years ago, but because of the ending of the show, Martin pulled it out as he was going to go to typeset and started rewriting Winds of Winter. And I don't know what to make of that. So I believe that he provided a rough ending of the books to the showrunners. I believe that. I wouldn't like to believe everything else that has been told after that. What do you guys think?
Just gonna straight go for it. When I saw that ending, my first thought was, oh shit, he's gonna rewrite the books. I really hated that. It was so bad. And if that was like an idea he had, And afterwards, the backlash, I was like, he's gonna rewrite everything. And now you're coming like, oh, so there's a theory. I've been thinking this the whole time, and it's his legacy piece, and I don't think that we will see it before he dies.
Do you think he's secretly written them down, like some people seem to believe?
Yeah.
Oh, you're part of the delusional crowd.
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think,
Jared?
I
Jared?
need something.
Yeah.
What do I think? I don't know. I don't pay attention to any of the news that's out there when it comes to stuff like this. So I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. I really love the books. I read them as they came out, way back when's, and but I'm not. It's not like on my top 5 like fantasy series. I really think they're great for what they are. I just didn't pay that much attention when a show came out. I loved the show when it first came out. I was disappointed only in the last season. Really, I thought it was fine up to that, and I wasn't overly judgmental on the season before it because I understood that it didn't have they didn't have the guidepost that they had previously, and I'm kind of familiar with how difficult it is to make these shows and to pull them off, and so so nothing really bothered me until like pretty much the last episode was the one that kind of didn't do it for me at all, which many other people feel that way, but the whether or not Martin had it written and decided to scrap it and start again or just do major changes, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think he as long as he took to get past A Dance of Dragons, what's another few years compared to that? It's a decade or 13 years or 14 years is not much difference there. And now I don't like the fact, I mean, did he actually come out and say he's not going to release it anymore, or
No,
is it still up in the air?
no, still in the air.
Okay, because I've heard rumors that he was like all done or something like that. I'm not sure, but
No, I think he made like a sarcastic post that said, kind of like, people will say that I'm never going to finish it, and he was kind of being sarcastic, and they took it out of context, and it made it look like he
right.
said that seriously, but he was just sarcastic.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think the proof is going to be in the pudding. If we get another book, I'm going to read it because I'm a fan of the series. There's plenty of stuff out there to give you refreshers about what happened and came before and stuff like that. So I'm not going to feel pressured to do a whole reread of the series and anything like that. But and we'll see how it plays out. Unfortunately, I don't have like a hot button opinion, I guess, on this particular one.
I think either way he's screwed. So let's say he did write the book or had it. I think he did. I think they've admitted that he did give them at least framework of the ending or what would the major points of how the story would end. So they used that and they created the end of the story. They've never really said how much they changed. I don't think they would change the major parts that people eat the most, because those are the main parts of the story. But assuming that the story he gave them was what we got in the show, it's almost like a first draft, like a test run for the story that he was going to tell.
Mm.
And based on the reaction, I know that they wanted them to extend it a few more seasons, but D&D wanted to go write Star Wars, which never happened. So they rushed it to get their contract with Disney, and I think they shortened it. So even if we got a longer explanation of a lead up to all the things that happened, I still don't know that people would like it. So if he writes the books and it's the same as the show, people are going to be pissed because they're going to say, we didn't like the show. Why do you change it? If he does change it, then people are going to say, well, you're a coward because you didn't stick with your story. You didn't write the story you want to tell. And so either way, he's screwed.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, he's screwed. And I don't think it'll ever be finished. I think he does have one of the books written or almost done. I can see him going back and rewriting it, but based on the reaction of the show, you can't help but second guess yourself. And Game of Thrones was a major. It was a cultural. Everyone watched it. Almost everyone watched it. And everyone talked about it. It was a major thing. So it became part of the, it's a cultural zeitgeist. And I think you can't help but you can't help but let that get into your head. And so many people hated it so much. It has to get in your head. It has to mess with you. So we'll never see the end of the story. If we do, it won't be until after he's gone.
But what's the issue that people had? Because I keep going back to the same thing. I didn't have an issue with Daenerys going mad and becoming this tyrannical, ruler.
Shouldn't you say like spoilers or something?
Oh, yeah.
For some people, there are still people who haven't seen the ending.
So spoiler alert for a 10-year-old show.
At this stage of life, I mean, right?
I'll add a note on the show notes. But yeah. Okay.
But again, I think I can buy the idea of everything that happens in that last season. The issue was the execution of it and how short it took. Like, the character arcs didn't seem believable. Like Steve was saying, if they had extended it another 2-3 seasons, which Martin said that's what he had planned, I think we would have been happier with the ending, because it's not about getting from A to B with TV shows or books. It's how you get from A to B. And I think the issue was with that, not with the actual ending itself, because of the reasons that Steve mentioned. Why some Benioff wanted to rush, go Disney, Star Wars, and all that stuff. And I think that's where the problems came from. And I saw an interview with Martin where he said that he was okay with people guessing the ending of the show or who was who, because he said, as a writer, if you foreshadow events, if you drop little hints and the intelligent reader picks up on it, that means you've done your job correctly, not incorrectly. So I think he was happy with, people guessing stuff and figuring things out. I think it was just they did a really bad job of it.
That's a good point, Jose.
I don't think he should change the ending. He should just finish it properly.
Yeah, that's a good point about execution, because execution matters a lot. And there was no time to work out Daenerys' character arc. There was no time to work out Bran's character arc. There was no time to work out how Cersei and Jaime ended. There was no time to really look into that stuff and get to the point where they got. It just seems like they kind of just jumped there, and they jumped together, and they jumped in. Boom! It was done, and there wasn't. If Martin had the time in the books to really flesh out how Bran could have got to that point, and flesh out how Daenerys could have got to that point mentally, because that'd be a lot of stuff that the show just didn't show at all. So that's a good point. The execution.
And Jaime in the last season with Brienne abandoning Cersei, going back to Cersei from one episode to the next, literally. None of that last season makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
And execution-wise, not only the story, but most people didn't see what happened at all because most of it was black.
Yeah.
Unless you have like a 4K Blu-ray, then you can see like, oh, I see what's going on there. And I have the 4K, and it will forever be the one that has a coffee cup on the table in a scene that lasts 10 seconds or something. Why? How unprofessional is this?
Yeah, and no time to reshoot once they saw it, and yeah, rushed like you guys said. So
And is that famous interview with Emilia Clarke when they ask her, "Was there a season like?" and she just bursts out laughing and goes, "He's the best one ever," and she cannot keep a straight face. Like she knew it was a POS. And
Yeah.
anyway,
Rewatching the show, there were hints of Daenerys losing her mind. So there were little things here and there, and people, all the talk about the Mad King, and it's in the family, and so it is there, but it's very subtle. But it's like it just seems rushed. It goes from about 2 to 20 in like 3 episodes, and there's a 7 or 8 season buildup, or from the very first scene for the dark or for the for the walkers to come, for the for them to come and knock down the wall, and they're going to come and kill everybody. And it lasts 1 episode. The battle's 1 episode. And what made Game of Thrones great is that you never knew who was going to die. And if someone made a mistake, if someone did something wrong, they would pay for it, they would die. In that episode, everyone is on the verge of dying. I don't know how many times. And they somehow get out of every bad situation they're in. I don't think anyone, the Red Witch dies at the end. I think someone else dies. Daenerys's what's his name? Sir Jorah dies. But other than that, like no one, it just seems it's kind of like it was all the build up for that.
I rewatched the whole show recently with my wife,
Mm.
and on first watch, I figure, oh, there's something not quite right here. On second watch, you realize how bad it is. And again, a spoiler alert here, is when the Night's Watch has gone beyond the wall, and they are surrounded by the White Walkers on a floating ice cap. And all the White Walkers are just waiting for them to either sink and then one of the Night's Watch has got time to run back to the wall, send a raven to Daenerys, who is half the world away, for her to get her dragons, fly back and rescue them, and these guys are still standing on that floating ice cap, surrounded by White Walkers. Something that should have taken in real time, possibly what?
Weeks.
It's fantasy.
5 days.
You don't have enough fantasy.
Clearly. So anyway, and that was just stupid. That moment, that's the jump in the shark moment. That was anyway. But we digress. I think I would be disappointed if he changes the story based on people's reaction. I just want to see the proper ending, and that wasn't it.
Also, holding his stories back keeps it in the minds of people, so there's still interest in the IP. He's still selling the IP to everybody and everything to be used in free-to-play games or whatever. So he's still making money off of it before the last 2 books drop.
Yeah, but that's the point. People are hung up on Winds of Winter. We still need Dream of Spring as well. Like if it's taking him 20 years to write Winds of Winter, assuming another 20 to write A Dream of Spring.
They're both done. You just
yeah. Another note, if the damage that Game of Thrones ending has caused to the fantasy adaptations, because with Rings of Power and the Wheel of Time cancellation, I think probably now big studios are afraid to touch fantasy. As there was an article recently where fantasy is just not meant to be adapted, or it's problematic because the fan base is so loyal that you cannot change it. And it's like, well, not quite.
No, they're focusing on the wrong things. They're just focusing on the wrong things, and they're pumping in so much money for. I mean, there's so many older fantasy movies or things that came out that were on a low budget thing, and it's like, whoa, I still remember that movie or whatever. I mean, Legend wasn't a huge budget, was it?
Nah,
No, back in the early 80s.
nothing was in the 80s.
Princess Bride, that's simple fantasy. What budget? What?
Yeah.
And it's a classic. I mean,
Willow.
but
Willow?
I'm not sure about that budget though. That's George Lucas, and he's known for spending money everywhere.
Nothing was as expensive back in the day as it is today.
Yeah, but still, even with, I'm just gonna go video games for a second here. Everybody thinks like AAA. Oh, we need those budgets, and then comes a game. Where is it? The Claire Obscure one. Order 33. That's the biggest fantasy game hit in the last decade, and it's made by 30 people. Yeah. Story-wise, gameplay-wise, whatever, people are like, this is already Game of the Year. That is probably an exaggeration by a lot of people, but it's what? With a budget of what? Compared to the flop, what was it? PS5 had a flop that cost them $400 million. It lasted 7 days. It was last year. Yeah.
I was just doing a quick search. Willow had a budget of 35 million.
Yeah, so that is not a low budget.
And made 137 worldwide. So
yeah,
almost 5 times.
You know. But it was amazing, and budgets just get you so far. It's how you manage your budgets. Mm-hmm. You have to know. You have to have a vision, and a lot is they just write slop, or my friend is going to write it. Yeah, great. I know a guy that knows a guy that doesn't know anything about Star Wars, but is going to give us everything that we never wanted. Thanks.
Ooh. And so sorry, because I was looking for this as well, because I wanted to check it. Back to Martin. Have you guys heard of the author Larry Correia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So he wrote the last book of his saga of the Forgotten Warrior. It's a 6-book series. The last book is Heart of the Mountain. And in the dedication page, he says, to George R.R. Martin, see, it's not that hard.
Oh.
And it's actually, I can find it. There's an article on the NME. There's actually a photo of the book with that dedication. So I can see a photo. I'm not quoting from anywhere.
Hey, who knows that Mr. Martin is at this very moment using an AI like ChatGPT. How can I fix this ending? Please help me write this. He's using AI to finish his books.
Oh, and that's a nice segue into Steve's next topic of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Just really quickly about Rings of Power, or Rings of Power. Was it Wheel of Time?
Yeah, Wheel of Time.
I was surprised they canceled that. Just because they had invested so much money into it. I was a little bit surprised.
I'm not surprised, because I looked at the numbers. Someone much more intelligent than me did a full analysis of the audience, minutes watched, which is where streaming services use. And apparently, first to second season, it lost half the viewers, and second to third, it lost 70-something%. It was like nowhere near a success for Amazon Prime. But basically, it had lost everyone that bothered. And I've always said, with fantasy adaptations, what you have to do is get the core fan base on board, and they're the ones that will spread the word. And the casuals who won't pick a 10-book series, but will actually watch an 8-season TV show. And the showrunners just ignored Brandon Sanderson, who they had as a consultant, and people that were heavily involved with the books. Same with Rings of Power. They had a couple of people from the Tolkien society, advising them and offering guidance, and they just ignore them. And well, this is what you get, isn't it?
The Witcher 2, the writer, author.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, don't remind me.
I think that's part of it, is that these writers' rooms get these franchises, and they try to modernize them. They try to make them their own, instead of just adapt it, just tell the story. And you have to change things to adapt something, of course, but they change fundamental things about the characters of the story instead of just adapting the story.
But it's so ridiculous because you've got the perfect blueprint. Peter Jackson showed you how to do it. With the utmost respect for the source material, he changed a few things, he got rid of a few things, moved some pieces of dialogue to different places, to different characters. But the spirit was there, isn't it? And everyone loved it.
Mm.
I don't know. I remember reading some articles when it first came out. There were quite a few detractors of Lord of the Rings movies when they first came out, and then they kind of fell off. They died away. It wasn't as loud as things are much louder today than they were back then, and the loudness of the detraction for Rings of Power and Wheel of Time, of course, are off the charts. But they were there in the 2000s. It was harder to find, but they were there. They've pretty much fallen out the wayside by now, just because the Lord of the Rings had such staying power. The movies did. We'll see. We'll see if these decisions that Amazon is making to stop these things pan out over time, whether or not they look back and say, "Oh, maybe we should have kept going. Maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe they made mistakes, of course, in the first season for Wheel of Time and Rings of Power, and so it's hard to overcome certain mistakes, even though it looked like they were going on the right path with Wheel of Time as far as overcoming early mistakes and making the show better, but they didn't have the viewership, like you said, Jose, and it's a different time now than it was back then.
Yeah,
definitely.
But the question is, how long until you can try again?
That is a good question.
Rebooting Wheel of Time, or
No, I
rebooting
don't
Rings
think
of
you
Power,
can.
it's
Yeah.
not like rebooting Spider-Man or Batman. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very difficult to reboot them anytime soon, of course. But can they get a different property and do better? You can only hope.
Yeah, exactly. Because rebooting Batman is easy because he's been rebooted so many times in the comics that you can choose whichever, Batman story arc or Spider-Man, and you've got something to draw from. But these things they're set in stone. You cannot interpret them. You cannot take a different interpretation of Wheel of Time or Rings of Power or Witcher or whatever you want. That's what you have to work with. And I don't know, 20 years until people forget about this mess?
Yeah.
How about we think about the next IP they can fuck up? I vote Dragonlance.
Well, they kind of already did that, but
well, no. Television wise, let's go.
They did that animated movie.
Yep.
That was not a fuck up. That was amazing. That was so good, so good.
It was a weird choice stylistically, but I tell you what, my oldest son, who cannot watch a movie to save his life, I was watching it. I think it was on the iPad. And he kind of sat next to me. What are you watching? And he actually sat there with me and watched the whole thing.
It's amazing.
But,
but animation, they redid. I mean, The Lord of the Rings was animated by Ralph Bakshi long before.
It was one of those weird rotoscope ones as well.
It was, but it didn't stop the rebooting, if you put that in quotes, by Peter Jackson, into the franchise it became. So they could do Dragonlance. They could do, live action.
I
And mess
Well,
it up. But
I have not liked any of the movies that have come out under the Dungeons and Dragons banner. What was the one from a couple of years ago?
oh yeah, Honor Among Thieves.
Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah.
And the one with Jeremy Irons from
Oh, that was pretty hard.
20 years ago. I thought that was atrocious.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's a sequel to that one and a third one?
Really? To that one?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's the sequel is with the dude with the blue head, Damador, and then the third one is even worse. It's it's amazing.
I think my life is a little bit worse now with that knowledge.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the series I would love to see, but I would love to see it done properly. Realm of the Otherlings.
Sure. I'll take it.
But I don't want them to. I don't want them to fuck that one up. I really don't.
They can only make it better, so it's fine. They can have that.
Steve, boot him out! Boot him out! Someone put a muscle on this guy.
They can make it entertaining for once. That's gonna be great. That's
Okay, hang on. Okay. First law. Let's fuck that one up. That's easy.
I think
that's fine.
That is begging to be adapted. I think it is written in a way that you could adapt First Law and not mess it up. That's not.
Apparently, going on again on news. Is it James Cameron? He's got the rights.
Yeah,
he's got the rights for Abercrombie's latest book.
The Devils. Yep,
that's right. That one.
Has anybody read it? I know Steve hasn't.
No. I don't know why you would get the rights to the Devils when First Law is done and do it right now. The whole series.
Yeah,
just do the first trilogy.
I'm like 60 pages of the ending, and I'm still like, yep, this is. It's. I don't know. I wrote it on the forums. If people want to know what it is about, I think I summed it up completely with that one line.
Well, how do you like it?
Well, I'm a sucker for mismatched groups, the misfits go on an adventure. I'm a sucker for that, so I like it. But it's not. It's just not First Law. It's not on the same level. It's not even close to the same level. So if people think, "Oh, he wrote First Law," it's not even close.
Wow.
So for me, it's gonna be, hey, Thomas.
Hey, Thomas.
I'm still at a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm like just giving something, but it's because I'm an idiot. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. It's like, yes, this is stupid. I like stupid.
Hey, Thomas, how's it going?
Not bad. Sorry for the late arrival. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it.
That's all good. Do you want to give us a quick intro for people listening?
Yeah. Howdy, everyone. I'm Thomas J. Devins, author of The Fall of Emros and Vermin of the Old Empire.
Thomas,
how's everyone doing?
We were discussing what's the next fantasy series to be fucked up by any studios, Netflix, Amazon, wherever. Which one would you like to see destroyed in the next adaptation?
Don't say your own books.
Like it sounded like you were just talking about Abercrombie.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that happening. I don't know. It's whether it would be destroyed or not. Just kind of gotta take it with a grain of salt, don't you?
It's true. It's true.
They wouldn't dare adapt First Law.
I mean, if
I feel like it would be one of the easier ones to do.
Yeah.
Steve said so as well.
Be pretty. I think it was written in a way that you could adapt it pretty easily. There's not big, huge dragons and all. It seems pretty kind of low fantasy. So
yeah, and it's written in a way that's got that like punchiness that would fit a TV series well. I feel like.
Yep.
Well, what do you guys think about the Conan the Barbarian movie with Arnold?
Oh, it's,
With Arnold, the original one.
Yep.
The original two, or just one?
This is the first one.
I love it. It's cheesy bad, but I love it.
I haven't seen it in 30 years.
Probably about the same.
But it was fun when I was like 10. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that's because we had that conversation, Jared, didn't we, with Dr. Willard, who wrote the biography on Robert E. Howard, and we were asking him about that movie. And it's not based on really any of the Conan stories.
Right. It's just a mishmash of stuff.
Yeah. But we agreed. It did tick the boxes. It gave you a feel for what the Conan stories are. So I enjoyed it as a kid, for sure.
Yeah. I'm just curious if you would consider that ruining the property or enhancing the property. It definitely drew people to the property, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if that's the goal of an adaptation, then it works. The same way that the Game of Thrones TV show drew in a ton of readers, most likely, and the Lord of the Rings movies drew in people to the property.
But there's the question then. In all those cases you've mentioned, if you make the jump from the adaptation to the source material, you're not going to find something too different in the source material.
Oh, I think you'll find much different in the Lord of the Rings.
You think so?
Yes. Stylistically, it's different.
But that's saving obviously the adaptation required to go from prose to the screen.
Right, of course.
But I think in the case of Wheel of Time, we were talking before, I think at the core of the story, you will find a different story there than in the other cases.
You think so? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
They made some
was,
drastic changes to the TV show.
They made some drastic changes, but it didn't bother me because the Wheel of Time books were okay. They were pretty good, but I didn't mind the changes they made in the TV show. Besides the stuff that didn't work, like didn't make sense within the show itself. Like the ending of season 1 was horrible, but that's in the show itself. As far as the changes they made to characters and stuff like that, didn't bug me at all. And I was just, I mean, it might be because I was so removed from reading the series. I read the series as it came out, so it was a while ago. So I didn't have the memory of it being fresh in my mind what the characters were like. But it didn't really bug me at all. And I think Lord of the Rings, there is so much in the books that got cut out of the movies. And I think Peter Jackson made great choices about what to cut out. I think he made the best choices possible to make the movies. I know Josh is like, no, Tom Bombadil. But anyways.
There you go.
But the Tom Bombadil wouldn't have made the movie the cinematic success that it was. And as much as you'll love him. But and so I guess the point is, does it bring in awareness of the property? Does it bring in the readership? Wheel of Time failed to do that. Can you blame the TV show itself, or is that a product of the format that things are brought to us now? Like the streaming thing, the amount of stuff that is out there is insane. And back when Conan came out, it was in a theater. There wasn't so much taking away your time and energy and your attention. So how much can you attribute it to that? If Wheel of Time would have came out in the 80s, or when the books came out, it might have had a bigger impact.
True, but I think that because of Game of Thrones and there's still there's still a lot of people looking for something like that, because now they had a taste and they wanted, and Rings of Power wasn't that, Wheel of Time wasn't that. I didn't read the books, and I'm still feeling like I need to watch something fantasy, and I saw it and I was like, this is not good.
Maybe there's a Game of Thrones hangover that the world hasn't gotten over yet.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some other fantasy, kind of like fantasy adjacent series out there that do okay.
I mean, the sci-fi series, the books that you all read and I still haven't.
The Expanse.
The Expanse. I'm
good.
sorry. I loved that series.
I did too. Yeah, that's great.
And then the Foundation series is good. It doesn't have any ties anymore with the books, but it's good. Is there another one that was okay-ish, good now? Because for me, it's always, I go back to video games. Castlevania was amazing, but that was animated. So
yeah, but I liked his Dark Materials. I liked the show. It's something you don't hear about. It's not.
It was better than the books.
I liked. I kind of liked. What was the other one on Netflix? Blood and Bone or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But
it was.
Didn't see that
it
one.
was okay. Nobody talks about it. Shadow and Bone. That's what it was.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. There's so much stuff out there. There's so much.
Maybe they divided the fan base more and more. Like, okay, this is more my thing. This is more my thing. But yeah, it's also most of the things they went for sound and feel like YA. I mean, the things you said on Netflix, and I'm like,
yeah,
I hear YA, I just go, nope, thanks.
Yeah.
Next.
Jared, I've got a question for you.
Oh boy.
And it's so cool to hear you say, "Oh, I was reading the books as they came out." Like, that's that gives you automatically insta credibility there.
Oh boy.
As the Wheel of Time books were coming out, were they as impactful or as notorious as, say, A Song of Ice and Fire, or maybe the Harry Potter books, where there was this expectation, the next book in the series is coming out? Or maybe it's the lack of internet in those days that made it a bit less obvious.
Yeah. Depends on what you mean by, like, nothing was as impactful as Harry Potter. That was insane.
Mm-hmm.
When the Song of Ice and Fire books were coming out, I know they were kind of like bestsellers within this fantasy sphere, but it wasn't like this huge pageant or anything like that, where there are people lined up outside the door or whatever. I just got it when it came out and I read it, and that was the end of it. It wasn't. I mean, I was excited personally when a new book came out, but yeah, I don't. And I remember seeing them like on the featured on the shelf when you walked into like a Barnes and Noble or what have you. But it wasn't like when the show came out for Game of Thrones. Those books, of course, had a resurgence in the bookstores, and they were all over the place. And it wasn't like when the books first came out; it was nothing like that at all. And same thing with Wheel of Time. The books came out; they were featured for a week or two, whatever, and then they kind of went back on the shelves. So it wasn't a huge imprint on the greater book selling market. Fantasy fans, I mean, you look at newsletters from back when they had actual paper on the shelves there. They would be they would sometimes feature the Wheel of Time books, but not always. So it was definitely a more insular type of community back then. It was, we weren't talking to each other. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this stuff. And so it was special to me when they came out because it was a new book for me to read. And I didn't have a TBR. I didn't even know what the hell that was back then. And I didn't have read-alongs and all that stuff. So a new book came out, I would hop right on it and read it and go to try to find something else. You know.
Would there be this excitement about publication date? Would you be there, to buy it on the first day that it came out?
Nope.
Was it more of a case of, you walk into the bookstore, there's another Wheel
No,
of Time book here?
Yeah, no, I would randomly go to the bookstore once a month or once every 2 months, and I was like, oh, the new book is out. Okay, I'll get it.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
get that.
Kind of weird how entertainment has changed over the past 20, 30 years with fandoms. It went from something we did on the side to now it's such a bigger part of our life.
Yeah.
We've got more time for it, I suppose.
I wish.
Look at all those shelves behind you and around you. You're surrounded.
Yes, I am.
There you go.
These are just video. No, those are movies. The rest are video games. And I calculated. I think I have to have about 10 lives to finish everything. Like from age 10 to 80 and die, 70 years, 10 lives.
There you go.
Thomas, I have a question for you. If a studio came to you and said, we want the rights to your stories, we'll give you like a very small amount right now, maybe a couple $1,000 for the rights to your stories. We're going to adapt it. You have no say in what we do with your stories, and you'll only get more money if it's successful. Would you do it?
That's a tough one. I don't think I would. I think I'd probably want some sort of a say in what's done with it. Unless it was like a series that I was done with and was like, okay, I'm just going to wipe my hands of that. I have nothing to do with those stories anymore. I'm writing something else. But, I mean, even if they were going to give me a good chunk of money, I think I'd be pretty picky about the studio and stuff. But
One of those problem writers.
As the song goes,
Yeah.
who do you trust when everyone's a crook?
Steve was actually asking him like, yeah, are you a sellout or aren't you?
Well, I mean, it's tempting because you roll the dice, and so you get a small amount, you give up control. But if it blows up and it's the next Game of Thrones, then you're good. But if they adapt it and it's crap and they change it around, then it reflects on you negatively. Then it's this kind of, how much do you trust the people adapting these stories?
I feel like I'd rather make a very small amount of money off of a small, like, indie studio doing a good adaptation that they're actually interested in, rather than trying to get rich off of it. Which,
Well,
I mean, come on, it's never going to happen anyway, so.
You never know.
never say never.
There's gotta be all these studio agents or whatever they are called. If it was in the music industry with the talent scouts or whatever, searching for the next big fantasy series.
Managers.
Unless, like I mentioned from the article before, they've given up on adapting fantasy because nothing has actually worked since Game of Thrones. And even superheroes are on a massive slump.
Yeah, I think they're probably looking for lesser known stories to adapt that are going to be cheaper to adapt, rather than established, really popular Wheel of Times and the Lord of the Rings stuff, because it's so expensive to acquire the rights, and then it's expensive to adapt it, and then there's so many people that are nitpicking every little decision. So maybe smaller scale stories. What they should do is make like an anthology series where every season is a different story, or every season is a different book or something. Like a 10
like
or
that horror show that what was it called again? American Horror.
American Horror Story.
yeah, kind of like that. Just something,
Yeah.
like mix it up a little bit, showcase different authors, different
I think the
stories and
Dresden
stuff.
Files would work pretty well to get the HBO treatment.
It
Something
was a season 1 of something. There's a Dresden Files out there.
really,
Yeah.
there you go.
Is it as good as Dungeons and Dragons or?
I have no idea. I didn't watch it. But...
So, Thomas, I have another question for you, not to put you on the spot, but we talked on the forum recently about AI, the author that left her AI prompt in the book. Whoops.
Yeah.
So those who don't know, there was an author recently who released a book. I forget her name. I forget what kind of book it is. Anyway, in the book there was an AI prompt that's left in the book. Obviously, people found it. The editors and everybody missed it, and so she was. I think the prompt was like, rewrite this in the voice of some other author, kind of like helping her with rewriting it. And AI is such a hot button topic right now that I think a lot of people use it to clean up their writing. Everyone's afraid to admit it because of what's going to happen. You'll get canceled. The pitchforks will come out, and the digital coliseum you'll be in the digital coliseum. So you don't have to name any names, but do you know is it a common thing for writers to discuss using AI privately for small thing, like not a whole book, but like, I need help rewriting this paragraph. I used AI to help me rework. Is that a thing, or is that something that nobody ever talks to?
Nah, I mean, I'm not the most out there on social media and all that, but I mean, I'm in like a few different Discord groups and stuff that I kind of peruse once in a while, and generally the conversation is very much opposed to that. Like, also, like a lot of the times, the conversation seems to go the same way as my search history the other day, which was using Microsoft Word on. I got like a little cheap refurbished Chromebook laptop, so I could just work on my writing with like something easy to carry around with me. And you can only use Microsoft Word on the web browser apps now with that. And you can't get rid of their AI thing that's there. So like my whole search history is just like pages of how the fuck do I get rid of this fucking bullshit? Get this fuck out of here. And just like to the point where I think I got to the point where like I was almost angrily typing to the AI help because you can't talk to an actual operator, and it starts out just like, how do I remove this? Can I get rid of this? Is there any way to get rid of this? I don't want to have to see this every time I try to write. What the fuck am I supposed to do about this?
And in
And
the
it's
next
just
chapters,
this
3
annoying
characters
thing
died.
What's that?
Yeah. In the next chapter, 3 characters died, he said.
Yeah.
It feels like,
But yeah,
AI, how do I kill
I
you?
want rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is the problem, is that now, because we depend so much on technology and all the major companies are building AI models, they're forcing us to feed these models and to train them. Now that we are all using their products, they're going to insert AI. We're all going to help train the model, and we're all going to help build the beast to make it more efficient on their side. So we're basically plugged into the matrix, and we're helping build these models that I don't think most people agree that it's not a good thing. I mean, I don't know anybody who's like 100% on board on AI. I mean, there's lots of things that it's going to do change for us. And I think What a lot of people do, though, is a lot of people kind of just want to plug their ears and just say this is wrong and it's going to go away. It's not going away. The genie's out of the bottle. It's not going anywhere. It's just life now, and we have to just accept that this is what it is, and how do we work around it, or how do we kind of deal with it?
But my perception is that there is a bigger issue with AI in the creative arts than there is in any other aspect of life. There's AI. When we talk about AI, everyone is thinking about ChatGPT. But I'm sure that in computer game design, there are AIs where you're not typing every single line of code. That there are shortcuts to get that thing going. I'm pretty sure that in medicine, doctors don't have to memorize and know every single case, and there is some sort of AI that will give them shortcuts and access to diagnosis and so on. In architecture and engineering, people are not drawing plans from scratch. There is software where you input parameters and they will give you the result. So we use it across pretty much everything these days, but we're only making noise about the creative arts. Is my perception. And then I suppose the question is, what makes the creative arts different from every other thing that we do?
On one hand, there's a few things where
I heard you talking about it.
Just listening.
On one hand, like, first you had the different types, which I'm not an expert. I don't know every detail, but there's the difference between like generative AI and like algorithmic AI, I guess you could call it, where it's something that people have programmed and people that knew what they were doing specifically input these bits of information so that something will pick these, so something else can find these things. Whereas the generative AI is people are just loading a bunch of things other people creative that they've stolen to let the program go wild and learn all of it to then spit out whatever you ask it. So that's another big part, is the fact that it's being trained on a bunch of stuff that the creators never gave permission to use it.
It's a good word, stolen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stolen tons of books, artwork. Those people never got permission to use that stuff. And then there's also a pretty large toll for resources. And there's an environmental toll that it takes too, which has to be considered. And then if we're going to look at is this toll worth it or not, then it's one thing if it's being used to try to improve people's lives, like in the medical industry and stuff like that. That makes sense. If it's to write a book that has no heart.
Can I counter that? I'll give you an example. When we finally, I say we, the human species, finally managed to defeat ourselves, and IBM built Deep Blue, and finally a computer managed to be a chess grandmaster, and Gary Kasparov couldn't beat Deep Blue anymore. That's it, like we finally defeated ourselves. We've created a machine that is better than us at this really complicated game. But we've never lost respect or the appreciation for chess players. And, someone like Magnus Carlsen these days, #1 chess rated player in the world, we still marvel and we still are attracted and fascinated by these people that can do something at a level of, what do I want to call it, at this super high level that, regular people cannot achieve.
Top of the world.
Magnus Carlsen is never going to be a computer anymore, but we still hold him in really high esteem and appreciate what he can do. So AI can generate pictures, it can write books, I'm sure it can do lots of things.
But you're saying
we're never going to marvel at the fact that something has been human created, and we're going to hold that in much higher esteem than something that is being machine generated.
Yeah.
But what if we don't know what's generated and what's not, though?
That's a different question, isn't it? That's yeah. Well, but this is the thing. Apparently, someone was playing chess against Magnus Carlsen, and he could tell that the person playing against him was being aided by a computer. So I think possibly there will always be something, there will be some kind of Voigtkampf test that we will be able to do to detect whether something has been machine generated or not.
Spider sense.
Well, even if that test doesn't exist yet, it probably will at some point, I think. And then the human race in general is a pretty jealous creature, and they're gonna want to hold on to their creativity. That's the key word you said there, Jose. And we're storytelling creatures. That is part of our evolution. And if another storytelling creature, even if we created it, comes out, we're going to be guarding that ability pretty closely. We'll see what comes. We'll see what comes of that contest. But I have a feeling that, like you said, the ability to detect it will get better as well as it will ramp up with the ability of ChatGPT to make stuff or whatever other AI program.
This is another thing, though. We talk about pictures and things, paintings and things that are used from AI model to train AI how to create other, how to do things like that. So the problem is, for years and years and years, we've been uploading pictures to social media platforms, to Facebook, all the Meta stuff, Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. And in their terms of service, you give up rights
don't
when you
own
do that.
them. Yeah.
You give up your rights to your material. So if you upload pictures, like your photography, pictures of your paintings, if you upload your poems or your short stories or whatever to these platforms, you are giving them permission to use that material. They can turn on and sell that to Microsoft or Google or whoever for money to train their AI models. So is it really stealing? If it's on your website and you're showcasing a portfolio and they're using Google searches to take that's different. But if you're uploading your stuff to social media, these platforms, you're giving them permission to use it how they want. Your face can end up on an ad for a department store somewhere, and they don't have to tell you or pay you anything. You give them permission to use photos or your material. So it's funny because we've been feeding this for so long, and now it's starting to, we're starting to see the results of all these years of data mining.
Yeah.
I was happy until you started about it, but yeah. Sorry,
I
Thomas.
still think that there's a chance that it's going to all kind of implode. Because
I hope so.
Will it continue once it needs to be a profitable business model? Because right now it is a drain. It does not bring in money for the corporations that have created it, that use it. That's why they're trying to push it everywhere. And will someone use ChatGPT or something like that to try to write a book if it's going to cost them $1,000 to do it? Because at some point, the price is going to go up. And will it still be as appealing to people who... Because most people, yes, now there's more with people using it for writing and stuff like that, but it started out more as just kind of people dicking around. And that's what a lot of the art aspect of it started. Like someone was just like, "Oh, I wonder if I could make a picture of this," and then types the first weird thing that comes to their mind in to get a weird picture. As the business model changes and they need to start bringing in money, because I've listened to a few things about it, and it's like, I think millions of dollars in debt for most of those right now. Like, it is not a lucrative business model.
I just don't understand what the business model is. If it's just a subscription service to use ChatGPT, I don't necessarily get that.
They're still training it, and that's why it's still free, I think, right?
I think
Most of
another
them.
part we're gonna get so used to using it, and eventually they'll monetize. So we'll
Yeah.
get used to using it to
Like
rewrite an
everything.
email or to do simple daily tasks. Hey AI, what is this bug? Or help me. How do I cook spaghetti? And we'll get used to using it, and then they'll start monetizing it. It'll
Yeah.
be, that's how they're gonna get us hooked, and then monetize.
We had Word like things or Excel like things in our Windows way back in the day, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you can buy Office as a package. Now it's you don't buy it, you pay for 365 days for a year of using Office, and then you lose the license and you have to buy it again. It's getting worse and worse for everything.
Yeah.
You own nothing. You own nothing.
And I know people think I'm crazy. I'm convinced there are books right now on Amazon that were 100% written by AI that sell. Maybe not bestseller. They're not bestsellers, but I think people are doing it, and I think
People are interested.
most people can't tell the difference. If you're doing like a romance novel, if you do fantasy, like complex fantasy, where there's all these characters and it's this really complex and layered story, or it's a mystery novel, or there's certain genres that it's harder to do it in. But if you write a romance novel or a young adult novel, you can pump it out because they're formulaic, and that's not a knock on those books. That's just what they
No,
are.
you're correct. YA just sucks. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, but I think people are doing it now, and it maybe not 100%, a lot of them, but definitely people are using AI to help write their books in big ways.
Yeah, I do 100% believe that people cannot, well, some people or most people cannot tell it apart. There was a test online a few years ago, probably still around, where it will give you extracts from books. And I think one would be like Dickens, and the other one would be this British author that was or is regarded as the worst author ever. And you will have to decide to which author that text belonged to. And it was really difficult to get it right. It's really hard to discern what is considered a good piece of writing and what isn't, so long as it's grammatically correct. Obviously, I'm talking about just the literary quality of the text. So yeah, I do think there's probably someone trying to always make a quick buck with the least possible effort. That's just human nature again. But I suppose once they come out and that gets found out, I don't know. There's actually a lot of things now in terms of service where they can probably take your money back or pull the book out if it's discovered that you've actually used AI to generate your work.
Is it like Amazon or who?
Isn't it when YouTube, when you upload a video to YouTube, now it's asking if you're including sort of AI generated or like fake videos of people pretending to say something or things like that. So that's becoming now a much more widespread policy, possibly to protect against the things you mentioned.
What you're saying feels almost like one of the things you said almost feels like it is a feeling of right and wrong, not a is it right and wrong? Is it that people just, if AI made it, it feels wrong because they're so. It's what Jared said with our when we're storytellers. We hold on to that stuff, and it feels wrong that AI did it and not a person did it. But that's just a feeling.
But morals are changeable. Our ethics and our morals today are not the ones from 80 years ago. So, I work with children every day, and I can see this new generation. Some of the kids. I still get surprised as to how old I am. But these kids have grown up not just with the internet age, but with the AI age, with the mobile phone age. They cannot conceive of a world without instant 24/7 connectivity, high connectivity to the internet.
Please let that EMP come. Solves everything.
So I think these kids in 20 years' time, the ethics of what's right and wrong, it's going to be very different from ours, isn't it?
Yep. And that's the feeling. Morals.
Also, I think it's like this. It's connecting. I mean, we're all here all around the world, so it's funny to say it disconnects people, but I think in some ways it does make us feel farther apart when you don't have that human connection all the time, and it's as that distance. And I think that's why some people are, struggling to find connection. I think we're lucky to have each other because we do this sort of thing, but a lot of people don't have this. We don't have groups that we have. We come and sit and talk shit for a couple hours about whatever we're interested in. Not everyone has that, and I think it's tough to so you have that disconnect, and maybe it's changed perception on right and wrong too, because you don't have that kind of connection necessarily like we used to.
Yes, having people like that helps.
Yeah. Yep, and that says a lot about the community you helped build here on Base Join, Steve. It's something else, because even if people do connect somewhere on the internet, it might not always be the best place to connect. And so there's all those red flag things that people got to be aware of when connecting to places on the internet. And so here's to you for 150 episodes.
Yay.
Yeah.
And that's water, not vodka.
Sure.
But that is true. When I had one of the podcast episodes with Dr. Goodwin, he's a renowned psychiatrist, we were talking about it. And he said, obviously, this is great. It would be better if we were all sitting around a table face to face, right? That's your ideal. That's what you want to get to. But obviously, that's very complicated.
A little bit.
To find no. But I mean, to find in your social circle a group of 5 fantasy nerds that can just geek out for 2 hours, that's really complicated to find. Mm-hmm. So this that we're doing now is the second best thing for your own mental health, for your well-being, to connect with people in this way. It's not ideal, but it's certainly the next best thing you can do.
Yeah. Something weird happened today. Someone that is I have no idea who she is or whatever. I don't know this person, but she was at a hospital in Norway talking to one of our neighbors. Our neighbor is a Norwegian. He has to go there, and she was talking to him randomly, and then suddenly she was like, do you notice that I'm autistic? And I was like, who cares? I mean, and then she starts explaining like she has issues connecting with people and has to use the internet to do all this stuff. And then when he mentioned, but my neighbors are insane geeks. I mean, there's people like that everywhere. She just gave her email address just to have a connection with people like us. So I don't know this person, but I have her email address, and she wants to connect. And yeah, it's we're really social creatures. It's really weird that we're talking about all this. We need this. We need community. Everybody needs community, and that makes us. That's the thing we need to see if we're human or not. Have you talked to AI? Have you had a conversation with your AI?
I have, and it's great. It's really clever. It's very clever. So with like, I thought AI would take our jobs. It's actually going to take our friends. Honestly,
Jared, you've been replaced.
But, okay, see you later.
no. Honestly, so Jared, you tried this, right? Because I did a few weeks ago, and it took me. I spent a lot longer than I intended. So I started asking ChatGPT, going, so give me a ranking of Iron Maiden albums, and he gave me the ranking. But then he asks you questions, and he goes, "What did you think about it?" And then I go, "Ooh, I would have moved that one up and that one down." And he goes, "Oh yeah, because this and that and the other." And he does the re-ranking. Oh, and what do you think? Should we include this, that, or the other? And then I spent half an hour talking about music with ChatGPT.
Oh, that's insane! Yeah,
and it's like, oh fuck, like I haven't done this in years with anyone, and now it's like, oh, and you can talk about movies with it. You can talk about music. You can, ask it and it will ask you questions, and it will keep you engaged and refine and fine tune the answers based on what you say.
Don't you find that creepy? Don't.
It was very weird. It was really weird. Yeah. So, try it, guys. At some point,
No, thank you.
So you like computer games, Joshua? Ask her, top 10 games of the 90s or whatever. And
oh, I think I'm gonna have a fit. I think I might throw my computer out of the window if we have to talk about that with the.
I don't know, but it's programmed to be, obviously it's called ChatGPT for a reason, I suppose. But it's weirdly conversational.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's funny because you mentioned, we're getting together here on this forum as a type of social interaction, and it's with people that we never would have ran into each other in everyday lives, right?
No.
But it's funny because I grew up with a certain amount of friends, right? And as you get older, you grow apart because you don't have necessarily the same interests.
Mm-hmm.
You keep some, but not all.
Mm-hmm.
When we get together on these type of formats, we are getting together because we have particular interests. It's like the interests bring us together as the friendship group, rather than being in a certain place and time where you're around these people and you become friends because you're around them, and then you may have different interests. So it's an interesting contrast to how the friendships develop. And I just wonder, and I think when you mentioned that your interview with the psychologist there, and how why people are connecting, that this part of it's great, but yet there's also going to be the AI part of it that we don't know how that's going to develop and how that's going to interfere with either this or real friendships.
Well, I think Steve mentioned at some point, maybe a post on the forum some time ago, about not understanding how people have these AI girlfriends or whatever. I totally get it now.
Seriously, are people being catfished by AI?
No. They just rather have a relationship with an AI girlfriend that is going to find all the jokes funny. It's not going to complain about you leaving your underwear on the floor.
Yeah. liking your Iron Maiden rankings. I see where you're going with this.
It's not going to moan at you for leaving the toilet seat up and the stuff. I get why some people are persuaded by that.
That's really scary. It's really sad and it's really scary though, because if you are, and I get why people do it, because people are lonely, people want companionship, and they feel like they can't fit in or they can't find someone that they can click with or whatever. But when people start using these AI girlfriends, or I don't know if they're AI boyfriends or they're too, but when they start using AI girlfriends and they get used to someone laughing at every joke and you being it's like the smartest person in the world, and there's never any conflict, there's never any kind of there's never kind of like compromise, or it's going to train people to think that that's what relationships are like, and that it's not.
That's an episode in Futurama. The robosexuals.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I never watch it. But talking about that, this is the other problem about having your life online, is the dating apps are absolutely destroying both men and women, because you've got this. I think it's the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the women are only attracted to the top 20% of the men. However you measure that percentage, like you're going to be above a certain height and whatever. So, but by having that filter that is very easy to measure, but it's not defining of anyone's character at all, I would have never met my wife if I had been using a dating site, because she would have scrolled over. She's taller than me, so that's an automatic disqualification. So no,
it's true. Yeah,
it is true. And if you got most women, and in order to have a chance at dating them or meeting them, you have to be 6 foot tall. That's ruling out a whole bunch of people, and
that's
again,
okay.
People are using that skill and that ability to meet someone in the real world and start conversations and start socializing with people outside of a dating app or the internet or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's easy to swipe.
Of course, Thomas would have been okay. He's definitely over 6 foot, isn't it? So.
Don't most people just lie about that on those things, though?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I never had to use them, thank God. I would still be single and childless. So.
You would have been happy. I mean, what? You had it coming.
Yeah, thank you. Deserve that.
But I think we're all above 6 foot something, right? Yeah. I can see it. No. Yeah. We're getting to the point. Asocial is not a word we use anymore, but it is really asocial. If you think about it, it's no longer social activities that we do. The swiping is not a social activity just to see someone. No more talking, no more sitting around the table. Board games. If you find the groups, there are amazing people out there, but it's only during the holidays or family get-togethers. Makes no sense. Could be a Tuesday, could be any day. Sitting around a table with buddies, drinking beer. No. The good old days, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, because going back to the point that Jarrod made earlier about, you have your friends and they drift away from you or you drift away from them. That happened. Maybe the people with children here will have the same experience as me. You meet a whole new group of people when your kids start going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sort of feel kind of forced to socialize with this random group of people that all you have in common with is that they go to the same school as your kid. So you organize all these birthday parties and you do this, that, the other. And for me, I think it was this year. So after 3-4 years of doing that, it's like I just gone, that person no, no interested in that person, don't want to hang around with that. And then all of a sudden, sort of social life has dwindled down dramatically because I've actually become selective about who I actually want to talk to or spend time with, because otherwise, all we've got in common is that we both have a child. So that's 90% of the world population. So that's not enough to qualify
No worries.
to gain my friendship. So
Yeah.
You think that's like a cultural thing, or it's like an expectation, or do you think that? I wonder what, because I think we've all experienced that in some way, whether it be hobby or circumstance in life or people you work with, that you're expected to spend time with these people. Do you think that's a cultural thing, or what? Where does it, or just like where does that come from? That you just expected to do certain just because X, Y, and Z?
Society's expectations. You will behave like this because it's a birthday party. You bring a present. Have you ever gone to a birthday party without a present? I have, because I don't care.
Yeah.
But most people will go with a birthday present because you're going to a birthday. I mean,
I think it's rather than an expectation, I think it's fear. It's fear of not fitting in, of you being the odd one out that doesn't do what everyone else does.
shit, I'm doing it the wrong way then.
No, I actually commend your attitude. But
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, Jose, you were a big D&D player, so back in the day, we used to have to plan the time to get the group together, get around the table, roll the dice for the evening, and over the years, as my group was playing, people move away. Oh, we lost this guy. You might be able to find somebody else. You might be able to, know a guy who knows a guy or what have you. And then all of a sudden you have a new friend in your group. And then another guy moves away and does something else. And then, and that kept happening to us, as we were getting older and stuff like that. And then, then COVID hits. And we are all finding a way to get together, and we discover, of course, an online platform where you can play D&D. And now all of a sudden, I have 2 different groups online that I play with because all those old friends who moved away suddenly can play again.
Yeah.
So the social group oddly got bigger, even though it's limited to the screen in front of us here. It's just funny how technology has worked to bring that about, and it's funny how life works out sometimes, I guess.
Yeah,
when it comes
it makes me think about the social asocial thing again. When I was growing up, I mean, I started using the internet when I was 8 something, I guess. And no, older. Yeah, something like that. What, it doesn't matter. Anyway, when we used all those old browsers and stuff like the text thingy, MSN, is it one of them?
Yeah.
There are older ones, but I don't remember the names. But when we were talking like that, it was, oh, this is cool. Most people were like, that is so antisocial of you to talk like that, because everybody was going to pubs, everybody was going to parties and going outside. Now it's like, what, you don't want to call me, you antisocial prick? I mean, we shifted from, oh, that is not acceptable, to that is acceptable, and we're doing the same for AI, we're doing the same for a lot of things. We're adapting to this new world, and I don't like it. I like this talking to you guys because you're in different countries all over the world, but it's still, it would feel better to see you guys in real life.
And this is something I experienced when I was living in London, and it felt, just surrounded by people, but I felt very lonely. I didn't realize at the time is that you compartmentalize people, and people become a means to an end rather than someone that make your life richer. So I have my work colleagues, so I only saw them at work. And then on a Tuesday evening, we used to go and play soccer, but they were my soccer buddies that I only met when we went to play soccer on a Tuesday. And I had a D&D group, fantastic, in the function room upstairs in a pub in London. It was great, but they were my
Cool.
D&D friends that you only saw on a Saturday morning to play D&D. So you know all these people, but they're not really integrated in your life. They just become a means to an end. You're going to play football, well, then you're going to use this group of people. You're going to play D&D, then you're going to use this other group of people. And it's different when you are possibly at school or a university or at that stage in your life where your friends are the people you do everything with. And I think in some aspects, that is a risk that can happen.
It's because people at that age experiment with almost everything, and later they say, "Oh, I'm grown up now. I don't play video games anymore."
Yeah.
What?
I don't know if you guys have experienced that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
When when you're younger, you're trying to find yourself. So you're trying to find what experimentation is the thing, because you're trying to find what interests you the most, and you're trying to find what's gonna. When you get older, things drop off because you're realizing that something else is more important to you, and so you and compartmentalizing, like you said, Jose, is very important to that process of finding things that are important to you. And so it's just, I think it's part of a natural progression.
Or you get more responsibilities, and they call it real life. Like you have kids. Oh, I have to drop something. What most people drop, the first thing they drop is one of their hobbies, because you still have to
Yeah.
go to the shop. You still have to work. You still have to. So what do you drop your hobbies?
I dropped a lot of kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever the responsible father, a role model to us all, Jared.
Yeah, sure.
All
Gotta
right,
go.
little Billy, I want to get back into D&D. It's time you leave.
Yeah.
You're either rolling
Father, I'm
dice or you're
6.
going to your room.
Wow. Yeah.
There's never enough time.
There is never enough time.
And then when we get the time, we just bum around.
But is it
It's
a
not
bad?
procrastinating. It's not procrastinating. We think about stuff. We are theorizing stuff. Can I fit this on the other side of the room? Theorizing constantly.
Sometimes you get exhausted to the point where you got to sit and stare at a wall for an hour.
Yeah.
If you end
Watch
up
the
doing
paint
that,
dry.
I feel like you just need to. Like sometimes you just need to shut down.
That's called recuperation.
Yeah.
Steve, you were going to say something there.
Oh no, I was going to ask. Is you talked about compartmentalizing your friends and having friends to play football with, but friends to play D&D with, friends to go to the pub with. Is that a bad thing? Have friends that you have common interests and you have a hobby that because it sounds like it's nice to have people you do things with. So you don't do them alone. Sharing the joy of a hobby. But how
try
often do you have
finding-
a group friend that you have all similar interests? That's very rare.
Yeah, try finding that 100% compatible person in your life. Most people that are in this group will not have this because they're like, yeah, that is hoarding, sir. I understand.
Yeah.
But
Most of my friends are like that. They're like, you're a hoarder. I'm like, no, I collect stuff, but
exactly.
they will never understand.
That's the euphemism you use.
Yeah.
But no, because I mention it because I don't know if you guys had the same experience. When I was at high school, I had that. I had the friends that I did everything with. We will play Dungeons and Dragons, then we will go out have a few beers. They were the people I did everything with. And then once I went to university, once I started to work, then I moved on to that compartmentalized sort of social circles. Did you guys have that at some point in your lives where your buddies are the ones you did everything with?
Not everything. I mean, maybe when you guys are younger, I think it's more common. Like you said.
Everything.
So you think it's a necessary or an inevitable transitional part of life where you're gonna?
I mean, there was certain points where there was, especially when I was in the Air Force. You know, I had guys, roommates, barracks mates that we got together, played D&D together, went out together. But those were pretty. When I look at the span of years, those were pretty short years that happened, and I've noticed that the growing apart happened fairly quickly, even though in the moment it might not have seemed quickly, but and that you move on, you start getting as you get into new phases of your life, you like you said, you do that compartmentalizing thing, and you start growing and getting into other stuff, and life moves
Or
on.
you stay the same forever and you still have the same hobbies.
Well, yeah, except for Josh, who has his.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm stuck in the
but-
past. I mean,
but
it's fine.
you know, but you start finding the things, like I said, that matter to you, and you you know, I still have. I'm not really friends with anybody at my work that I do things with. No, it's a good thing, and
Yes.
and but I still have like I do a lot with my brother. We do a lot of gaming together.
Nice.
But he branched out and when it began off, and he has his music friends. He's a musician. He does his music stuff. He you know, he branched off, and he has a camp he goes to every summer. He spends a summer there, and he has his friends there, you know. But then he comes back, and we have our D&D friends, and we hang out, and then so it's you know, there's some crossover, but it's as you get older and those things, like I said, get compartmentalizing, and you have your separate moments and stuff like that, and that's a good thing. I think. I don't think that's I don't think it's normal for people to have their whole life doing the same things with the same exact group of people all the time.
Would have been cool though.
If possible. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I think that there is maybe some expectations of that in certain circumstances. I think some movies may portray that kind of aspect in some manner.
Mm.
And I think that's a false equivalency to life if they do that. But it doesn't speak to, I think, a well-rounded character if you have a group of people spending their whole lives doing the same things together the whole time. It doesn't seem
So
realistic.
you're not a fan of Thelma and Louise? Okay, that's fine. It's fine. I mean, no, it's. I mean, I have. I don't call them friends. It's more like I have people that tolerate me here. I have people that tolerate me at board games. I have people, it's fine.
Yeah, but I played baseball for a while, on an over 30 league, and it was fun. I went there because other people played baseball, and I joined. And I had a blast talking with those guys while I was there and doing the baseball thing. But once I was done with that, I didn't really associate with any of those guys ever again. You know, it was that was the commonality we had, and that was it. If I started talking about books, they would throw a glove at me. You know, so
yeah.
Also, the baseball people tolerated you until you started talking about books. Okay,
right.
Fine. But that's fine. I mean, I think we can all think about the people right now that are just tied to one thing in our lives. Maybe you don't think about them a lot. It's like, oh, I see Johnny Tuesday. Great, wonderful. Don't have to think about him again.
I've been like a lot of the friends I had when I was in high school are still pretty close nowadays. Obviously, a bunch of them had kids, and you just run into them once in a while. But a lot of my friends also, we're traveling folk, so we just kind of all were used to, like, you might not see one another for several years. You just run into each other here or there, but it's usually like a day hasn't passed. You just still, because we were all like family. So, like, nowadays I'm very much an introvert and rarely want to leave the house outside of work and stuff. But then, like, I'll hear, oh, so and so's up from New Orleans, so and so's in from California, and it's like, oh, well, let's have a barbecue. Come on over. And we don't really keep in touch otherwise. Like, well, no phone call, no email, no nothing. Just when we're in the same town, we hang out.
I've got a friend like that from school. We went to school together from the ages of 6 to. We were never really that close, but anyway. So last time I saw him was 2 summers ago, because we went to see Iron Maiden in concert. So we met, I don't know, probably 2-3 hours before the show. We had a chat where we left off 4 years ago. Went to the show together after, had dinner, and then we went our separate ways. And then we're meeting again next month to go see Iron Maiden again. And we'll probably carry on the conversation from where we left it off 2 summers ago.
Wow.
Talk about the wife and kids and all the stuff, and make sure, everyone is doing all right.
Up to date.
And that's it. It's very similar to what you said, Tom.
But those are more like real friends. It doesn't matter how many years pass. You'll always have that same talk, have that same feeling. I don't think you compartmentalize that. Those people.
No. Because it's not I remember when sort of conversation.
Yeah.
So, we're halfway through the year. How is everyone doing on their reading or writing?
I'm really looking forward to finishing Memory, Sorrow and Thorn. I'm just over halfway through the second half of the last book, which is the longest book ever written. If anyone doesn't know, To Green Angel Tower is split into 2 books of 800 pages each. And I'm really looking forward to not reading any more fantasy for the rest of the year. I think I'm a little bit saturated of the genre. So I want to pick up other things and take a break and maybe come back to it next year.
What are you going to read instead? What genres do you have an idea?
I've picked up. I've already picked up 3 horror books. Maybe I'm going to read some non-fiction. Maybe go back to comic books or graphic novels for a little bit. And yeah, maybe next year do the whole, or dip my toes into the whole Malasan thing, which seems to be some sort of expectation that whenever I post a book review, inevitably I get comments. Oh, where is your Malasan review? So, I haven't read it. Like, not everyone that talks about books has read Malasan. It's not a requirement. But,
are you sure?
Wow, I'm starting to think that I'm very wrong.
Steve, how are you liking the books? Because I haven't caught up on the whole read long. I think you're in book 3.
Yeah, book 3 now.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I'm reading with everybody because there's so many characters that it's blows my mind. There's so many things that happen, and it's told in a way like you already know, like the backstory. You should know the backstory. I get lost often, so I'm glad that we're doing it weekly and helping me keep up because it definitely feels like it takes more effort to keep up.
But you like the overall story so far?
Yeah, it's got just there's just so many characters, so many characters, and you jump back and forth between them, and they have these really weird names, and then they get renamed 2 or 3 times, and
Now,
but
before you've read up to Memories of Ice before, right?
yeah, last time
Or
we
did
read
you
up,
go
I
further
read.
than that?
I think I started Midnight Tides last time. Is that book 5?
Yeah.
Um, I think I got like
It's
halfway through that one. So yeah, but Memories of Ice, I was reading on a mass market paperback the first time, and that was just not a good.
No.
It's not. Did not enjoy that. Ridiculous. So I'm reading on Kindle now, digitally, and listening to the audiobook, and it's been a better experience. So
my
there's just
mass
so
market
much that happened.
paperback of The Crippled God has that nice break right in the middle of the spine.
Oh,
Where that thing's like
Mine is
damn
destroyed.
near 3 inches thick.
I don't know how you guys read mass markets. I don't get it. It's insane. I mean, I get like the size you can put it in your pocket or like in your back pocket or whatever.
Not
But
when it's 1,000 pages.
Not
well,
yeah.
not really, no.
Not the
Rick.
Allison ones.
Unless you, I guess if you like, you keep reading slowly start reading longer and longer books and gradually stretch out your back pocket, and then you can have the mass market 1,000-page book.
Yeah. You can't sit down, but you can have it in your back pocket by then.
You can
Oh,
sit
your
probably
down, you
back.
just
helps.
might develop spinal problems.
You will. Holy shit.
It probably helps that Thomas is wearing those massive leather dungarees. He's probably got like a kangaroo pouch at the front to carry the Malasan books.
It's it's fun reading these stories like the Malajans and the really in-depth ones, but like I had a great time with like Thomas's novellas this year. It's just like a fun time because they're short and they're enjoyable, and yeah, so that's I love those ones too. So
Thank you.
I try
Glad you
to
did.
level things off with like more complex stuff with fun things or things that are not fantasy, because if I end up reading 2 or 3 fantasy series at a time, it's like Jose says, I get like burnt out and it's just too much. So I have to kind of mix it up a little bit, and that's why the Dregs was fun from it, especially with all the characters and all the death, and it's just you jump in and jump out, and it's a good time. It's not
I
like
don't
it
know if
doesn't
you saw
feel
it
like
yet,
so much
but
mental energy.
I just posted my review of Residuum from DB Rook,
Oh.
and you should check that out because it's I don't know, I forget how many pages it is, but it's a novella. It's a nice, quick read, and it's great. I've had a lot of luck with the books I've read this year so far.
I go back and forth with trying to read more complex stuff and also just reading fun things. Like, we do the comic book thing every week. And it's fun to be done with the book in like 15 minutes. Like,
Yeah,
it's like it's fun to jump in and jump out and not have to dedicate so much time and energy to it. So it's good to mix things up, is what I'm trying to say. Because otherwise
I've got now, and I think I may make a thing. I've got one of Joe Hill's short horror story anthologies, and every time I finish a book, I will read a short story before picking the next book. And it may take me like maybe one night or 2 nights to read that short story, but it sort of clears the air, and then I feel a bit more ready to pick up the next one.
We should do that too then. I tried it. The smaller books. So I read Hemingway, a couple of books this year. Yeah, I'm trying to read all of Hemingway's books, and I think I have 3 or 4 more to go, and then I'm done.
Wow.
But they were the last ones were pure and utter garbage. I started 40K, reading 40K the beginning of the year. Amazing. I love the universe, so can't say bad things about that. Read Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. Was actually pretty good. I mean, I love the movie, but like not the best movie ever, but I really like it, and the book was exactly the same. Just read Project Hail Mary. Was simple, good. I liked it. And then now I'm reading The Devils, like everybody knows, 60 pages to go. If I write a review about it, it's gonna sound like I'm a sellout because I like it, even though it's really stupid. And the simple book that I'm reading in between other books is the second one of the Becker books, the 4 parts.
The Warrior Prophet.
Books.
Oh, the 4-part.
The second one there.
Virginia, and then there's The Good Ordeal.
Yeah.
No, White Luck Warrior is the second one, right?
White Luck Warrior. I was so disappointed with the first one. I haven't written a review of it because it felt like I really liked the first trilogy, and I was like, we're done with all the going somewhere theme. First book starts, we're going somewhere, and I was like, no, we ended this whole thing. We don't have to go somewhere else now. So I was pretty disappointed. And then you read the second book, the warrior thingy, and then the beginning of the books just sums up the first book in 10 pages, and I was like, yep, that's why does that first book exist?
I don't know if you heard the sound bites I got from Varsha from our discussions for the Judgy Nye.
No.
These fucking kids.
Amazing.
I had to use it.
Please put them on the forum.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I have them on the on my little
again.
pads now.
These fucking kids.
Amazing.
That's wonderful.
we got a discussion tomorrow for Discworld. I'll try to figure a way to play that in or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to good old 250-page books, right? Does anyone read them anymore?
Well, they're all in the Sci-Fi Masterworks collection.
For you guys,
or Forgotten Realms, or Dragonlance, or
Varsha roped you in on those as well. So.
Yeah, they're good though.
No, the thing is, because you know Joshua mentioned about Hemingway, there are so many forgotten books that are really good. People just seem to have forgotten that were very popular, maybe in the 40s or in the 50s. That maybe, I don't know, are they just gone forever?
So, one of the books I read this year was by Bernhard Nord. He's a Swede that wrote a trilogy about a family of settlers that settles in 1860 or something in the Mars Mountains. Those books have never been brought to English until last year. Those were like, they didn't exist, but you can only order them by print runs on Amazon, like really bad paper and stuff like that. But they were never translated to English, but once to Flemish, to Dutch. And that was in 1950. and I have a copy of that. I was like, I'm in Sweden. I need to read this because maybe it's something interesting. It's about the Sami people and the settlers. It was amazing, and I felt like this book. I think. Let me see. Can I see how many reviews? So there are 69 ratings and 7 reviews, and one of them is mine.
Mhm.
The first published version was in 1937. And I've got at least 100, 200 books like that will never see a print run again, or maybe obscure by somebody.
Mm.
Just like lost media, gone.
I think you get that more maybe with non-English books or books that were originally written in a different language. Because I was thinking about they got translated at some point. It's a series by an Italian author called Giovanni Guareschi, and they were written in post-World War II Italy, and they remind me a lot about Discworld, and it's about this priest who lives in a communist village in the south of Italy, and it's his constant fighting with the mayor, who is a communist, and him being obviously a conservative Catholic priest. And so everyone is a communist in the village, but they all go to church on Sunday. And it's the constant conflict between the two, and how the priest can actually talk to the Jesus on the cross on his church. So when no one is listening, he has conversations with Jesus there about how he can make these communists, come back to church, and can I smack him? And Jesus is like, well, that's not a good idea. I said, well, just a small one then? And then Jesus goes, yeah, just a small one. And there's all these, and they are delightful. And in one of the books, they go to visit communist Russia. And I don't want to spoil it. And they're wonderful books, and they seem to be lost in time. So I don't know if there's more. Well, there's got to be plenty of examples like that around.
Yeah. There were a couple of other ones, like A Month in the Country, but that one was lost to time, and then suddenly Penguin Books picked it up and went like, this is a classic. I agree, it's a classic, but I couldn't find it for years, and then suddenly reprint everywhere. So maybe just wait for the classic things for the English version, for English books, of course, but Italian, Swedish, Norwegian, German, whatever, they're gonna get lost.
Maybe they just wait until they go on the public domain and they pick him up on the chip.
Is it public domain after? Because I don't know, how many years does it need to be?
It depends. Well, there's a certain number of years if no one claims them or something like that, or no one renews them.
It was public domain, right?
Yeah.
Does
Didn't know that.
Does that change by country?
Possibly.
It must.
Yeah. Because, for instance, where's Peter Pan? The rights belong to a children's hospital in London, so they profit from every copy, every adaptation, everything. It just keeps the hospital running. So that will never go on the public domain.
Huh.
But I thought it was. I thought Peter Pan was.
No.
Or was it when I'm thinking Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah. No. Peter Pan definitely belongs to I can't remember the name of the hospital in London.
That's why we get great horror movies with Winnie the Pooh now.
Yeah, every time something like a children's show goes to the public domain, we come
Mickey
up
Mouse.
with these
Mickey
horror
Mouse
movies.
just
Wait, really?
Yeah. The Steamboat. There's a new horror movie this year, Steamboat Willie, out.
How did they let that lapse?
I have no idea, but it's really bad.
It's actually only certain interpretations of Mickey the Mouse that are public.
So Steamboat
Okay,
Willie.
that makes sense.
Because there's certain ones that Disney retained the right to and stuff like that. It's a really complicated thing.
Just some weird loophole.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird loophole. It really is.
What about you, Jared? How's your reading this year?
Oh, you guys know that.
What are your
if
standouts?
if you want to know my reading, check out my channel.
I read
but
your weekly thing, and I'm like, damn, you've read more in a week than I have all year.
Yeah, standouts. Of course, we're doing the Wars of Light and Shadow. And so the book Storm Fortress was a huge standout for me as far as that series goes. And I'm always still enjoying Jenny's writing immensely. I really enjoy it a lot. So we're on book 10 now, and I so excited to get to the end of that. But we also read Parable of the Talents was really great. Octavia Butler. For a little bit of dystopian sci-fi. And I read The Great When by Alan Moore. That was fantastic. A little historical fantasy in London around World War II. And P.L. Stewart's A Pack of Wolves. I read that. That was fantastic. The Drowned Kingdom saga. I think that was book 5. Yeah. I read the book that Held Her Heart by Mark Lawrence. That was very good. The finishing off the library trilogy. And I liked Clara in the Sun a lot from Kazuo Ishiguro. That was a really great, fascinating, a very fast read, but very deep. So it kind of had the combination of being something you can read quick, but also there's a lot of thematic depth to it as well. So it's very, very good book. And I know, like Steve, like you mentioned earlier about mixing in comics, and I think that's I think mixing in comics is very important and should be in everybody's lifestyle. But because comics give you that instant fix of that 20-minute read that you can get something fulfilling out of that, and it gives you that that kind of excitement to wait for the next one, that comes along with comic book reading, that where you get the and that next one is out the next month, and it's not like waiting for the next big novel in a series or something like that. It's a more of an immediate fix for what you're looking for, as far as having that sense of I accomplished reading something, but I also am excited for the next one, and it comes pretty quickly in a month. It's not too long of a wait. And of course, Steve might agree the best comic this year is one called Assorted Crisis Events. It's been a real great surprise, a fantastic read. That's some of the highlights of the year so far.
Thomas, what about you? What are your reading and writing updates and highlights?
I've actually read a lot this year. I started keeping a spreadsheet. First time I've ever done that, because once I started trying to write reviews mediocrely, I've taken to doing that, and it looks like I've read like 16 books so far this year, and I will admit they are mostly novellas and short stories, but I'm still
A book
pretty
is a
damn happy
book.
about that.
Story is a story.
I've been sticking with that, trying to make it a point to read shorter books right now, and especially concentrating on indie stuff and trying to read things from authors I haven't read yet. So that's been my main goal, and The only thing that's kind of been like now, Devils is out. I want to read that eventually, and I still haven't read the last Esselmont book, which I have the audiobook and just haven't listened to it yet.
Is there a new one?
It's newish. It came
was
out
new
a
last
while
year.
ago. Yeah, last year.
Thanks.
So
what do
I'm
you
gonna.
think about the Scott Snyder book? I was Steve and you that were reading the horror Western book.
Oh,
Cold.
Clayton Snyder, Cold
Clayton
West.
Snyder.
Huh?
Clayton
Cold West.
Snyder,
Yeah.
Cold West.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That was a blast. It was just right from the second you started it, in your face, just
But it
does
had
not slow
the-
down.
the Unforgiven vibe, right?
Yeah, it had that, but also it was just like every few pages, it's just like this is getting weirder and weirder and crazier and crazier. You didn't.
Loved
It
it.
wasn't predictable. Like when I started reading, I was really just expecting like a gritty Western, and then it just went wild, and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
And also because it was still a gritty Western, and I kind of just was just in the mood for that. Like I've been really enjoying the mixture of fantasy and Western lately.
And now I checked out the book Forge of the High Mage, right?
Yeah.
Then I own
can't
it.
believe
That's
I
good.
haven't-
That's fine.
I've had that in my Audible library since it came out and just have not read it yet or listened to it yet.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of stuff that I'm trying to get to.
I understand. So do we all.
Yeah.
As do we all.
And how's your writing
and
going,
as for
Thomas?
writing, I am making good progress on the next Vermin of the Old Empire book. I'm about 15,000 words in, and this one is going to be a siege story that I've been wanting to do for a while. So it's a little bit slower paced than the other two, but it's definitely very similar. And yeah, I had a lot of plans for other stuff that I was going to try to do, but financial issues and stuff like that, I decided to kind of, because I wanted to try to put out 3 books this year. And
wow,
I was kind of on the level with the writing, but decided like I didn't really have the money for all the cover work and stuff like that, so I'm not gonna rush it. I'm just gonna try to do the next Vermin book, and I would like to get the next Fall of Emerose out before the end of the year, because that's long overdue.
Pretty ambitious, though.
I'm hoping to support you, sir.
Yeah.
They're in the basket. I just need the money.
I know it's time always flies. It's over 2 hours, and Jose had to go because it's midnight. It was midnight for him. Thanks all of you for
Same
hanging
here.
out. It's always always great, and we need to do it more often. I need to find some kind of system to kind of plan these on a regular basis, every other week, every month.
The time was perfect for me, so
Yeah.
We'll try to make it a better time. It's tough with everyone all around the world. Find a time that works for everyone.
Cool, Steve. Well, I'm making some filet mignon, so come on over if you can.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Where?
Yeah, no. I'll get in my car and drive. I'll be there in about 16 hours.
Yeah.
If I drive with my car, I'll be under the sea.
Rod, you and I are probably only like 2 hours apart or so.
Just 2?
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
I think so. You're in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. You're in New York, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's more like 6 hours.
What? Oh, are you East
Yeah, I'm towards
Massachusetts?
closer to Boston. Yeah. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm right next to the Hudson River, so
okay, yeah, maybe
Cool.
4 or
I'm
5 hours.
probably about the same latitude
So
as you, but
he's telling you he's coming by boat. Just so you know. Canoe.
I'm
Craft.
making burgers in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so
craft.
one Lantern by sea. I get it. All right.
But Thomas, before we go, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Page Chewing forums or on. I have a link tree with everything, and that's Thomas J. Devins. And I have a Ko-fi, coffee, whatever you want to call it. And you could buy my ebooks directly from me through that, or paperbacks if you're in the U.S.
That's definitely go.
Cool.
Jared?
Yeah, find me at the what do you call that? YouTube. Fantasy Thinker channel. The Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, yeah. And you can find me on the podcast Speculative Speculations and Film Chewing and Panel Chewing and an occasional conversation like this on Page Chewing as well.
And Joshua, where can people find you? If there's anywhere to find you.
Like all these fine people on the Page Chewing forum.
Well, thanks for helping me celebrate 150 episodes. There's another 50. 150. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk